Toto Wolff has sparked some rumors about a potential return of Hamilton to Mercedes. While at the moment that seems like a very far-fetched scenario, the Austrian is adamant that it's not something we should write off. Obviously, the hope that Lewis would win the 8th championship with Ferrari was the primary factor for Hamilton to destroy the most successful duo in the history of the sport between him and Mercedes. But with many factors in play, can he return to the team that gave him so much and vice versa? It goes without saying that one of the biggest bombshells in the history of the sport was dropped at the beginning of 2024 before preseason testing when Hamilton announced his departure to Ferrari. This has given Wolff and Mercedes a lot of bittersweet emotions because while they knew the time was coming, especially with how they acted towards Hamilton in 2022 and 2023, it still came as a shock. This was a decision brought without even trying the W15 and seeing whether the team made some progress with their new car. Now, Wolff believes that Hamilton to Ferrari is a move that won't end his career, and that there is still a chance they could be collaborating in the foreseeable future, whether that is in a driver's position or as an ambassadorial role. It's kind of paradoxical for him to say this after Lewis was denied what he sought from Mercedes in the latest negotiations, which might hint toward the fact that there is regret that the Brackley-based squad didn't push harder to continue with Hamilton beyond 2025. Elaborating further on this matter, Wolff said, "There is no such thing as an end to the relationship that Mercedes has with Lewis, neither what we as a team have, nor I and Susie personally. On the contrary, I think Lewis has decided to do something else for the last part of his career, which I understand, or I can understand. But he is always going to be part of that family, and always welcome in the family. One day, maybe when the driving ends, there are going to be plenty of adventures we are going to embark on." While Wolff is hinting towards rejoining forces with Hamilton in his post-driving era, the fact that he has a young duo of drivers doesn't automatically mean that his future is set for the next 5 or 10 years. Everything can change in this sport, even from Lewis and Ferrari's side as well. If something doesn't go as planned, and if the debut or the next couple of seasons prove to be poor in performance, then Lewis can always seek another place on the grid. For this to happen with Mercedes, one of the two drivers would have to be underperforming, and Lewis might have to accept the fact that he would be the designated number 2 driver now that the odds wouldn't be in his favor. The return would only make sense if something drastically changes at Mercedes, and they would have to beg him to make a shocking return and be given the leadership pattern. But in order for him to return to Mercedes under any circumstances, he would definitely have a word or two to say to the engineers and the technical directors. After all, them not listening to his direction regarding the development of the car is something that pushed the 7-time world champion to think about moving away from Mercedes in the first place. Of course, all of this is speculation now, but it is fueled by Wolff's statements. By saying this, he is practically agreeing that the team should have dealt better with the entire Hamilton situation and should have applied much more practical solutions to his contract. What doesn't go well for Wolff is the fact that Hamilton was very easily convinced by Ferrari and their project regarding the 2025 future. When talking about it, Fred Vasseur said, "In 2023, we won more races than Mercedes, and the beginning of the 2024 season was good also. So, it was not too difficult to convince Hamilton that Ferrari would be a good project. I think he had the project to drive for us in his mind for at least 22 or 23 years because we were discussing this in 2004, Vasseur continued. It meant that it was not too difficult. I think sometimes it's also a matter of coincidence or timing, that he is on the market and that Ferrari has a seat available and so on. But the contract was an easy one. We started to discuss 1 year ago, and it was not difficult to convince him at all." Furthermore, Vasseur expressed no worries at all regarding Hamilton's qualifying form and believes that this is something he will rejuvenate in the Maranello squad. It's just the team's job to give him a car capable of doing that. Over the past couple of years, we've seen Ferrari slowly but surely transform into a team that performs on Saturdays and manages its tires and race pace on Sundays. This might suit Hamilton far more than usual and could push him away from the idea of returning to Mercedes. Nevertheless, the future presented to us seems highly anticipated because we have 2 of the most competitive drivers on the grid as teammates. This was definitely not an obstacle for Ferrari to sign Hamilton. As Vasseur admitted, he would rather have these sweet headaches of having 2 alpha males in the team than fight for lower positions on the grid. Christian Horner, however, feels like Hamilton joining Ferrari will make the Maranello squad a bit divisive because it's very difficult to deal with two highly competitive drivers pushing for the same goal. Comparing the situation within his inner circles, Horner said, "We are perhaps slightly different to other teams where we go, do you know what? For us, Max is the most valuable asset in Formula One. He is our lead driver. If you can get close to him, fantastic. But the reality is the expectation for Max to win. A team like Ferrari next year, for example, is going to have two drivers who will take points off each other. And which horse do you back? You have to back both of them, but that sometimes becomes divisive within a team. Different teams have different approaches. It wouldn't be the first time Hamilton faced a competitive teammate. We must not forget the 2014 to 2016 seasons at Mercedes, and when Rosberg finally won one against Hamilton, it took such a toll on his mental health that he decided to retire from the sport. On the other hand, Wolff made sure to give credit where it's due and spoke highly of the man responsible for bringing Hamilton to Mercedes, Niki Lauda. This is the man who has reformed the team into what they are right now, along with Schumacher's knowledge. But securing the signature of the McLaren champion was definitely the move that Lauda can be most proud of outside of his racing career, Wolff said. Without Niki, there wouldn't be any Lewis with Mercedes. I think Niki was so persistent in trying to convince him to join Mercedes. Particularly, he just scored the goal with him on that Sunday night in Singapore, where Lewis DNF'd with McLaren and convinced him to join the team. Everyone else just followed suit. I'm not sure Niki was even given enough credit for that. He took no prisoners, asked what salary Lewis wanted, and convinced the board of Mercedes to do this. It was one of the most controversial moves at the time, but the pattern was perfect. Hamilton joined a team set for great success in the new era, just 1 year before the era itself began. That same batch of moves has been replicated in Hamilton's latest venture to Ferrari. The Maranello team is happy to have two alpha male drivers who will give their best to prove who has it better and who could be the next champion for the Italian outlet, something they've been chasing since 2007. It's undoubtedly one of the greatest duos of drivers paired in the same team. But whether we like it or not, Hamilton might have it harder than usual in the integration process simply because Leclerc has been there since 2019, and the entire project has been revolving around him. Therefore, Hamilton's mission of trying to win an 8th championship with Ferrari, apart from his age and some difficult admissions that he is just not as fast anymore, will be an interesting venture to follow. With all factors in mind, do you think he has what it takes to win the 8th with the team that Michael Schumacher won 5 titles for? Let us know in the comments below. If you're interested in F1's demand for a total investigation into McLaren's 2024 case, have a look at the video that's appearing on your screen right now.